Hello everybody. Remember when I said I didn't miss any cartoons? Like at all? Well, I lied. So I am here to cover them. This is the fourth one. First off, we start off with Pat and Sandy. It originally started out as a collection of shorts, but you most likely only remember them for their take on In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Honestly, this just charmed the shorts, maybe because it often got a laugh out of me, or even because of how darn lovable the two main characters are.
It's hot.
What'd you say?
It's hot. So hot even my fleas are sweating. Wish a breeze was blowing through here.
Breeze, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get a big old breeze if we play speedboat.
What? Not speedboat? I'm begging you, don't!
You said you wanted a breeze, Stan. Well, this is definitely a breeze.
How can any living creature have this much gas? Stop!
It's a hippo. What did you expect? Later on, they received a show with a new cast of characters.
Yesterday.
They aren't really that interesting. Not annoying, but it always seemed pointless to me to add them, you know? Like a sloth who always ends up falling asleep. Riveting. Fire Sam. Now this one, I wasn't even aware of the original version growing up, and after watching it for this video, I can safely say that the original version is way better. It's a lot more charming for one thing, but it's also not as boring as the one I grew up with, and it's more entertaining too. The stories were also way more creative and endearing. So you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to say it. Stick to the original, the classic. Kinda like the next cartoon we're going to talk about, Banana in Pajamas. The original in this case is live action, which I did actually see. Despite the cartoon having the advantage to make them look cuter, they didn't, and it's just more boring than anything. I'll take a live action, thank you. The next cartoon is a Lego themed one, Lego Thundercats, or under its actual name, Lego Chima. Just like one of the previous cartoons, I never actually saw the original. Essentially, it's like if you took the Thundercats, made them Lego, and then tried to take them as seriously as possible. Which sounds ridiculous, I know, but it kind of works. Kind of? Well, one of the things that doesn't make it work, aside from how they look, making it seem really goofy, is the fact that, I don't know, there's actually a fair bit of repetitiveness to this one. Mainly because of the racing, but also because of the fact that the episode's status quo usually resets. I'm aware that might only be for the first season, but that's still something to note. Combine that with wonky writing and missed lore opportunities, and you get a show that's decent-ish, but really, you're not really missing much. Wow. Okay, 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 okay. I'm ready. This next one is one I've been dreading about. Massa and the Bear. Massa and the Bear is something. It's a show about a bear and a girl. It's certainly a Russian cartoon, alright. Bear is generic and Massa is as annoying as an actual spoiled 3-year-old girl. And the other cats aren't really that special either. It's not really funny, and I guess the animation and visual is alright. Just stay away from this one. The next cartoon to talk about would be the Pink Panther. If there's one thing I can admire about the Pink Panther shorts is their visuals and how uniquely 70s it looks, and that's not a bad thing either. I actually think it's eye candy to the eye. I just really like how it looks. And I can talk about how the music is really catchy. But aside from that, there's not really much to this one. I'm most definitely going to get killed for this, but part of me feels like they were trying to be like Bugs Bunny, but didn't quite understand what made him funny. Don't get me wrong, sometimes they can be funny, but for the most part, they end up being rather boring, which is why I don't really watch them a lot. The situations the Pink Panther finds himself in are also rather small, which can be a good thing, but they don't really take advantage of that. The next cartoon would also be a Pink Panther cartoon. It's the Pink Panther show, which has two parts to it. The first part is what we're going to talk about first, the Pink Panther part.
Hey, that rhymes.
The first thing to talk about would probably be that Pink Panther now has a voice. And honestly, it's a little jarring, but you'll get used to it. Especially since it's really fitting, and I actually love it. The situations are also a lot bigger. Not too big, but still feel a lot more grander than the original shorts. And this time they actually do take advantage of that. Honestly, I say this is a fun watch, and I might even dare say it's better than the original shorts, but we're only in the first part. What's the second part? The second part is the Ant and the Aardvark, whose shorts I've never originally seen, so I am stuck with this and the one in the next shows to work with, but we're not there yet. Essentially, it's kind of like Tom and Jerry if Tom and Jerry could talk and if they were a mouse or cat. While the slapstick isn't really as funny as Tom and Jerry, I admire that they at least tried a little more to be different, and the result shows. It's not my cup of tea, but it's decent. Honestly, that's the best way to describe the Pink Panther show. You got something that's really good, and then you have something that's mix them up together and you get something that's but you only really watch for one thing and one thing only. It's Pink Panther. I mean, there's a reason he takes up the name and not Ant and the Aardvark. Speaking of taking up names, here is the next show, the Pink Panther and Pals. This time the structuring is a little different. While you still get two, the Pink Panther are what sandwich the Ant and the Aardvark. So you get two Pink Panthers and one Ant and the Aardvark. Let's talk about Pink Panther first. It's actually a mix between the shorts and the Pink Panther suit, in that they added the really complex situations and combined it with the simplicity of everything else. Not only do you get the best of both worlds, but you get something that's actually genuinely funny. Honestly, it might even be for the best that there is 2 Pink Panthers, because the art and the artwork remains the same as in the Pink Panther show. Oh sure, the designs and animations are definitely better, but it's still the same decent-ish thing that I knew from the Pink Panther show. So honestly, even though I prefer the Pink Panther and Pals over the Pink Panther show, I recommend trying to watch both of them, since at least they're both better than the original short, which didn't leave much of an impression on me. So Pink out. For our next cartoon, we're going to the land of the Britain with Son the Sheep. After creating Wallace and Gromit, I guess Nick Park got bored of Wallace and Gromit and then decided to focus on the character that originally came from Wallace and Gromit. So Son the Sheep has a bunch of other sheep who live with him in the farm, and they do a bunch of waggy stuff when the farmer is none the wiser, because his dog is the one who actually takes care of most of the stuff that he's supposed to. Lazy bum. But here's my question. Whatever happened to Son's sweater? Did he lose it? Did he get rid of it? Where is it? What happened to it? Well, not that that matters anyway, because what we have here is a charmingly simple show that isn't as good as Wallace and Gromit, but it's up there. It's up there. You get a lot of charming sheeps and characters, and you get a bunch of fun stories that are cleverly told without any dialogue. Yup, you heard me right, there isn't even one bit of dialogue. It makes it something that's rather impressive. So, while it's not perfect and I prefer Wallace and Gromit, I'd say that this is something worth checking out. Timmy Time, on the other hand, can blow me. Wow, a spin-off of a spin-off. That is so weird. But essentially that's what you have here. A spin-off of a spin-off, this time focusing on Timmy. Yeah, I'm sure he was a fan favorite, as we see his wonderful life at school. Riveting. But here's my problem with this show. It's the fact that they made Timmy such a brat, which he wasn't in Son the Sheep. It's like, why would you do that? It makes him for such an unlikable character. And also, unlike Son the Sheep, there's even more nothingness in this. It's even more boring than Son the Sheep, which at least had the charming characters, but here, I don't even remember any of them, and I probably won't. Aside from Timmy, but then again, that's because of his personality change. So, go watch Son the Sheep, avoid Timmy Time. The next cartoon is something that I first saw as my first Sunday cartoon. Something I saw with shame, regret, and scarred me for so many years to come. That cartoon is Sonic Underground. Even though it's awful, from the janky animation to the pointless songs and even some pointless characters like Knuckles. Why is Knuckles here? It can at least provide entertainment in another way, and that is by how hilariously awful it is. I have a fun saw game for you. Take a saw every time something stupid happens in the store. You'd probably die from that. The songs aren't even that catchy, they feel like they were inserted in because they were forced to. Although at the same time, I wouldn't call this so bad it's good, so because it's just bad. Sonic Underground, it's anything but goofy. Our next cartoon is definitely a product of the time. I mean, if you have the hero be a pervert and have both the hero and the heroine argue like an old married couple, then I wouldn't want that in my Legend of Zelda cartoon. But lo and behold, here we are. We have a cartoon that's cheesy and not funny. One that looks like a He-Man cartoon rather than an actual Legend of Zelda cartoon. Link shoots lasers out of his wooden sword for some reason, while Zelda does all the work, yet she doesn't get the praise for some reason. It's a mess. Plain and simple, it's a mess. And honestly, I wish they took another jab at a Zelda cartoon. Honestly, a more fitting thing would be a Legend of Zelda movie. You know, something similar to the Lord of the Rings movies, but for the Legend of Zelda. But as this cartoon is, you can just watch the YouTube poop. You'll get much more enjoyment out of that. Speaking of video game cartoons, here we have an anime based on the cartoon. Kirby, right back at you. Out of all of the cartoon video game adaptations that I've seen, this one is one of the closest I've seen to it being faithful to the games with few changes. Sure, there may be new characters. Sure, the CGI doesn't blend in with the 2D all that well, and in fact, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Sure, King DDD's voice is really weird. And sure, there may sometimes be a lot of disturbing, downright creepy stuff that happens. But for all its faults, you can't deny that it's entertaining, which is more than I can say for the Zelda cartoon. With great characters, fun adventures, and equally delightful copy abilities, I've got only one thing to say, and that one thing is this clip from Spaceballs.
Suck!
The next cartoon would be Angry Birds tunes. Now, I'm not really an Angry Birds fan, at least not anymore. But these are fun. From great characterizations to funny jokes and stellar animation and art style, you get their first and best attempt at an Angry Birds cartoon. I honestly wish they didn't stop making them and they made more. It's honestly more worth it than the actual games, which I don't hate, but at the same time, there's not really much to go back to. This cartoon is the better between this and the games. And I say that seeing as how they actually managed to give the characters a lot more personalities than they could ever have in the games. Then there's Om Stories, where I have a review series on that I've been slacking off. My bad. But anyway, I'm only going to talk about the first season here. So, they have a lot of great ideas. A lot of really fantastic ideas that could make up for a great episode. But they don't go through with it. It either ends up decent or even underwhelming. There's only been like a few that I actually got satisfied by. So whenever I see some people say that season 1 is the best season, I go, really? Honestly though, this show is great, but the first season is not that great. I wouldn't go with the first season, but everything after but before the superhero stuff, very good. This next one is what happens when you combine two things I'm barely into: football and anime. You get Inazuma 11, and I gotta give it props for actually making me care about football because it was really investing. The characters are interesting. When they actually played football, it wasn't like any anime sports things you've seen before. It was actually quite unique. The animation is bold, beautiful, colorful, and even expressive. The only thing that I have something wrong with is the way they use their powers more so outside of football. What do they need it for outside of football? Do they even use it outside of football? Are their powers limited or unlimited? You know, stuff like that. But otherwise, this is one worth kicking the ball to. Next up, you have The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3. The best one out of all the DiC cartoons. DiC Mario cartoons, that is. They actually try to tell adventures and stories without being lazy, past the puns, or just being corny. There's still a few things that aren't great, like the bad alternative names of the Koopalings, or the lesser but still present animation errors. But while I got to give credit for tackling subjects you wouldn't expect Mario Brothers to tackle. Like there's an episode about racism, not literally, but there is one. And even though that might sound very cringy and forced, it actually managed to handle it well without outright mentioning it. So yeah, while it might not be the best thing ever, I'd say that it's the best out of the three worth checking out. Would you believe that this is my first introduction to the Care Bears? Yup, that's right, it's about love, it's about positive, it's about love. Well, anyway, for this one they made the switch from 2D to CGI, but honestly, the 2D one had more charm to it. This one just looks like any CGI kid show. It's colorful, I'll give it that, but it doesn't look very unique. As for what goes on in the show, it's Care Bears. There might be a few bells and whistles, but it's mostly the same as before. This is also aimed at really young kids, so any older then might not find any enjoyment. Little kids will, but not older kids or even adults. Unless you're this show's demographic, then I say you're not missing much. Heck, I'd even say the original can suffice more. Whew. Oh, that was a lot. Some were good, some were painful, but I finally did it. I actually went through the ones I forgot to mention that I didn't already talk about. Whew. Thank you guys so much for keeping up with me for all this time. It really means the world to me. And I'll see you guys. Why did you put me in the thumbnail if you were even going to talk about me? Well, you see, come back here, boy. Come back here, boy. Nobody escapes a bad whooping. Come back here, boy. Nobody escapes a bad whooping.